Deep in the heart of Ohio's Amish country, away from the bustling eyes of the world, the Amish renegade was born. Escaping the confines of tradition, Lizzie Ens pursued her passion to become a highly sought-after health and wellness coach, driven by a deep desire to heal and inspire. With a unique ability to awaken the inner commando and renegade within each individual, Lizzie stands as a beacon of hope in a world yearning for change and craving simplicity. Tune in to the only show of its kind, hosted by the Amish renegade herself, Lizzie Ens, on the Lizzie Ens Show.
Welcome back, everyone. I am so excited to have you guys here again. And this week on this show, I have my special guest and friend, Dr. Sabrina Solt, with me. And I've been dying to have this very specific conversation with you, Sabrina, because it's something that I've been getting into. We're going to be talking about stem cell therapy and peptides today. And I know that you are much more well-rounded in this topic than I am. So I am extremely honored and excited to pick your brain on this. So Sabrina, welcome to the show, and tell me and tell the listeners where you're from and what you do.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. I love that we're going to live stream this. So it's like real time, so much fun. So I'm a naturopathic doctor. I am located here in Scottsdale, Arizona. That's where my practice is. I'm actually originally from Canada. And my practice specializes in regenerative and anti-aging medicine. So what that means is we use natural tools to help the body heal and regenerate, and basically get people to a different level of health than what they've previously been told is even possible by their providers. So utilizing things like stem cells from a patient's own body, PRP, various peptide therapies, even bioidentical hormones, all that fun stuff.
Yes, very, very fun. I want to dive into it because I feel like we have a lot to cover here. I want to start with stem cell therapy. Like, what are stem cells and how do they work?
So stem cells are primitive cells, meaning they haven't yet differentiated into the endpoint cells that are actually going to carry out a job. And there's various types of stem cells. You know, if you remember back in the 90s, we had a lot of that controversy over the embryonic stem cells, the things that they were getting from the aborted fetal tissue. Thankfully, we've come a long way since the 90s, and we're no longer doing things that have any real ethical considerations. And we really have moved more towards utilizing stem cells either from a patient's own body or using products that have been obtained from birth tissue, but only from full-term live births where no moms or babies are harmed during any of the process at all. That also accompanies very thorough screening for various communicable diseases, and of course, any type of contamination that may happen along the way. So there's a lot of checks and balances involved, and for the most part, these products are very safe. Now, when it comes to the different types, in clinical practice, there's really two types that we are interested in using for applications that can help improve people's health. A lot of people are familiar with bone marrow stem cells because that's what's been used for decades in the oncology and cancer space to help people with, certain types of cancers like leukemias to really restore their bone marrow, restore their immune system. But we can also use bone marrow in clinical practice for even things like joints. So osteoarthritis of the knees, the hips, various other concerns as well. And then we have the mesenchymal stem cells, or MSCs. And these types of stem cells are actually really abundant in a person's own fat tissue. So what's really fun is that we actually get those from doing liposuction. So we do a very minor harvest. We'll usually take anywhere from 1 to 2 sticks of butter from a patient, and we will extract the stem cells from the fat and then deliver them wherever we really want to place them. And the mesenchymal stem cells are really cool because these guys have the ability to regenerate everything from bone to cartilage to muscle to nerve. They can actually even positively impact a patient's immune system. So we've seen really great results in autoimmune disorders. We've seen also the ability for them to not technically cross the blood-brain barrier, but to secrete their exosomes across the blood-brain barrier. And these exosomes are kind of tiny little messengers that can carry out various information. So we've seen benefits in various neurological disorders, even things like long COVID. I know that was probably a lot, so I will stop and let you kind of see what you want to parse out from there.
Yeah, no, that's so amazing. It was so interesting. Before you even said that, I was very curious about the autoimmune part. Like, what types of autoimmunes have you guys seen that this has been beneficial for? And how do you even proceed with a procedure like that?
So actually the first patient I ever did stem cells on had Sjogren's disease. The second patient I ever did stem cells on had MS. Both patients experienced phenomenal results. And usually when we're talking about autoimmune disorders, we're talking about an intravenous administration because we really want the stem cells to be able to go everywhere and affect the immune system. And immune function is mostly within your blood cells, your white blood cells, red blood cells, whatnot. But then you also have something called your T cells. And when someone has an autoimmune disorder, there is this imbalance between the T cell responses, mainly Th1 versus Th2, and them kind of going haywire. Stem cells actually have the ability to bring that back into balance, which is really neat. So we've had patients, like I said, Sjogren's, MS, we've done things like even Hashimoto's, rheumatoid arthritis. There's been a few others. And usually doing the stem cell therapy, we're able to at least put them in a state of remission. Now, of course, we can't ever say that they're going to prevent a flare or anything in the future, right? Because there's so many things that can spark an autoimmune flare in somebody. It's an environmental exposure, it's a life stress, car accident, whatever it is. But with some of these patients, usually, again, it's just a matter of, hey, we can reestablish that. It's usually not as severe of a flare. We can kind of get them back into balance using something from their own body, which is really cool. The other way that stem cells can work in that regard is they actually have the ability to donate their mitochondria to your cells that might be in need. So if you have cells that have been damaged at that cellular level and really just aren't functioning the way they should be, the stem cells can come in, donate that new fresh mitochondria and really reinvigorate them.
Oh my gosh, it's so incredibly fascinating. So let's just say, for example, I'm going to talk about Hashimoto's for a bit because there's so many. I know a lot of my listeners, they struggle or deal with Hashimoto's, and it's really everybody can be so different. So I'm very, very curious on a treatment plan and what that would even look like for someone with Hashimoto's.
Yeah. So in the stem cell industry in general, and I will just kind of lead with this, there's a lot of places that do stem cells, but there's not a lot of places that do them the way that we do them. And I'm going to kind of toot our own horn here for a minute because with my background as a naturopathic doctor, root cause medicine really does mean a lot to me. And I'll be the first person to tell you that you can't just go get a stem cell treatment and think that that's going to fix everything for you in like a one and done thing. You still have to do some of the back end work, right? Like you're never going to you're never going to like out stem cell your bad dietary habits, so to speak. So if you have Hashimoto's and you're still gorging on gluten and you're eating a lot of like the goitrogenic vegetables and you're not sleeping and you're overly stressed, like may not be the best option. So normally when we're taking somebody with an autoimmune disorder, we're doing screening labs to start to see, are there other fires that we need to put out first before we want to put the stem cells in? So I'll give you a great example. I just had a patient and her main concern was actually alopecia. So she had started losing her hair. We come to find out that it was actually secondary to a uncontrolled and undetected Hashimoto's with these antibodies that were like in the 400s, which if you know antibodies and that levels, that's high. That's really high. And so in a situation like that, where there's these other fires going out, I kind of have to explain in a way like, yeah, the stem cells are going to help, but civil war is happening in your body right now. And before we call in the National Guard, which is the stem cells, we may want to just like clear out that civil war and like tune that down as much as possible. And so in those situations, we might talk about doing short-term medication to just knock the antibodies down. We may talk about diet strategies, supplement strategies to really just bring the body into a better place to actually receive the stem cells. Because when they go in, I don't feel like I'm intelligent enough to engineer these stem cells. They come with this really, innate intelligence, and depending on what your religious beliefs are, you can assign that to whatever you think, the universe, God, whatever it is. And so they're going to go in and they're going to have their innate intelligence to go after what it is that they see. So what other inflammation is there? Most of the time for most patients, it's what's screaming loudest and proudest, but how often are we aware of our kidneys or our liver or anything else? And if there's other stuff happening, the more we can clear out before, the stronger they're going to work for that main concern we put them in.
Yeah. I'm curious if you've ever had anybody that with Epstein-Barr that this has been done on.
I've had patients with we'll call them like comorbid infections. So a lot of times I've had patients who were in the recovery phase from Lyme disease, meaning they had contracted Lyme, and sometimes Epstein-Barr comes along with that. And they end up with just kind of this widespread joint damage as a result of it. So the stem cells aren't going to work per se to be an antimicrobial, even though they can help balance the immune system. They're just not going to kill things like antibiotics would. But say you go through that, and you've recovered somewhat from that, but there's still the leftover damage afterwards, that might be a good time to really bring in the stem cells.
Yeah, very, very interesting. So incredibly fascinating. I'm curious, what has been like your most successful thing with stem cell, like the most fascinating, but because we both work in the natural field and sometimes,
Mhm.
we always get surprises. We're like, wow, that actually like works. Like it happens
Yeah.
all the time. And I'm sure
Oh
you
my
see.
gosh. Yeah, I've got stories for days. So there's kind of a couple categories that these stories fall into. One category I would say would be the cases where people have been told there's nothing for them to do. They just need to be on, pain meds to control it. And they're probably going to die with this disorder, and it's just going to continue to get worse. And it's just a very bleak outlook for them. There's this one particular disease process. It's called arachnoiditis. It has nothing to do with spiders. It has everything to do with it's the arachnoid layer that actually surrounds the spinal cord. And people usually develop this disease process after some sort of injury. Sometimes for women, it can actually be after receiving an epidural in childbirth. For other populations, it can be if they're supposed to receive like a steroid epidural for chronic pain in their low back that they may have already had. And within that process, something happens where it actually damages that layer of the spinal cord itself. And what ends up happening after that is this buildup of scar tissue and this bundling of the nerves at the spinal cord level that ends up causing very, very, not just severe pain, the most severe pain a person can possibly handle, to the point where a lot of patients have to have spinal cord stimulators inserted to manage the pain pumps inserted at the spine. A lot of them lose their ability to walk, to urinate, to defecate, to have sexual function. It's horrendous as far as the disease progression goes. We've been able to help that patient population considerably recover, over many, many years. I've been working with that patient population for about the last 4 years. And I would say I get maybe 1 to 2 patients like that every month to 2 months or so, which it's a rare disease. So that's a lot
Yeah,
technically.
that is a
So
lot.
it is. And they get better. I've had patients stop needing to use a wheelchair, patients who were able to get off of pain medications, patients who were able to just simply walk. I mean, I had this one gentleman, and he was so sweet. And when we first did our call, he was like, I just want to take a walk around the block.
Mhm.
And then we did his treatment, we did a follow-up, and I had to laugh because this guy had the audacity to be like, I can only walk 3 miles. I'm like, let me pull up your notes, because when we first talked, you just wanted to be able to walk. Now you're mad that you're only walking 3 miles.
Mhm.
Sorry, like I think I do good work, but maybe we just don't quite do full
You've
miracles.
like 10 times what his actual goal was.
I know. And so sometimes I have to have this conversation with patients. Have you read the book The Gap in the Gain?
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
business oriented book, but sometimes I have to talk to patients about that when it comes to their recovery, the gap, meaning where were you and then where are you at now? And sometimes if you're looking like, oh, or the gap between where you want to be, like people think,
Yep.
oh, there's this perfect place where I have no pain, I have nothing, versus looking back at what they've gained, which in this guy's case, went from not being able to walk to being able to walk 3 miles. And he's,
Yeah.
it's just a reframe of expectations, right? And like I said, I will be the first to tell you they work great, but they're not going to necessarily perform miracles, but we can certainly see a lot of really cool stuff. The
Yeah.
other type of patient that we see that can get cool benefits are the ones where we treat one area and then something else improves. I had a patient, and we actually just treated his shoulder. His seasonal allergies completely went away. And that's how the stem cells can positively affect a patient's immune function. They completely turned off his allergic response. I had another patient, we treated her hips and her wrists improved. So for better or for worse, even when we're injecting one area, the stem cells are still going to follow that intelligence. They have this homing mechanism where they can actually be attracted to areas in the body where these inflammatory signals are coming from. So it's just really cool stuff we get to do.
Yeah, and I'm also curious if you've had patients notice an improvement in their gut. So let's just say, for example,
Mhm.
someone has really high gut inflammatory
Yeah.
issues and they see that happening. Like,
Yeah, that was actually me. So I had this yeah, I think my internet's being a little unstable. Sorry. I had this done actually back in 2018, and my main concern at that point was longstanding gut issues. I had had stomach problems since I was probably like sixth grade, seventh grade. It was a long time. And after the one treatment, significant improvement as far as gut inflammation and pain and difficulty with bowel movements. And so, yes, we definitely see that for sure. But as I'm sure you probably know, there's so many ways to address gut healing and gut dysfunction. And we definitely do bring on a lot of pre work as far as talking about elimination diets, talking about ways that we can actually work to heal the gut. And of course, talking about that like mind body connection, because we have the gut brain access and
Yep.
it's the stress and it's all the other things too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we got to go to our first break here, but when we come back, I want to continue this conversation. And later on, we're going to start talking about peptides because that's another thing that is just, you are such an expert on peptides, and I really want to dive into that as well. But this has already been so incredibly fascinating for me, and I'm sure for our listeners as well. So, guys, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after the break.
Hey there, renegades! Are you tired of just going through the motions? Ready to break free and design the life you've always craved? Then you're in luck, because right here, right now, you're in the heart of it all. Every single week on the Lizzie Ens Show, we release a new episode where we dive deep into the hottest topics out there, from health and fitness to mindset, business, and personal growth. But here's the kicker. We're not just here to talk. We're here to make it happen. Join us weekly for discussions that are uplifting, powerful, fun, and relatable. We're all about embracing the incredible potential of our minds and bodies and learning to move with them to reclaim our vitality in every aspect of our lives. So if you're ready to join the revolution and unlock your true potential, tune in every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Mountain, 12 p.m. Pacific Time. Because right here, right now, you're in the perfect place to make it all happen.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
You're now listening to the world-renowned and internationally recognized Amish Renegade on the Lizzie Ens Show.
All right, welcome back, you guys. Okay, I want to just speak to the listeners for a second here because Dr. Sabrina touched on this just a little bit. But one of the things that I want to be very, very clear for anybody that's listening here is this is not something that is a quick fix thing. It's the same idea as looking for that quick fix supplement, looking for a quick fix diet. Hey, this is going to be the one and all everything. And you're seeking for that thing that's going to be like the final answer. If you are not doing the foundational work with your sleep, your movement, your water, and your diet, then you have no business going into something like this before you do the groundwork. It's the same thing as someone that's just looking for I'm gonna like dish on a diet right now. Like we're talking about like the MetaFast diet, or we're talking about, what's that other one called? Like Take Shape for Life, like something like that. They're just something that you're throwing your money at it without the proper education of what you need to be doing to heal your body. So Sabrina works in the naturopathic field. I work in the functional field, and we are very, very keen and focused on the root cause of things. Okay. So if you want to build a foundation and have healthy soil to then go into something like this, that's what you need to do first. So I just needed to put that out there because this is incredible information, but also very, very important to understand that piece of it. All right, Sabrina, back to you. First of all, I want you to tell the listeners where you are located, because if there's local people, do you have people that fly in from other states to see you? I would expect so.
Yeah. All the time. Yeah. My clinic is physically located in Scottsdale, Arizona. We've had patients from all over the US, Canada, Germany, Israel, the UK. Think that might be it for the international ones. But yeah, people do come from all over. And I really appreciate you saying that and reiterating it because, we do turn people down that just aren't the right fit for us. There are clinics that are happy to just take your money and just give you a procedure and that don't work in this way. And if that's your MO and you just want to try it and see if it works and you have that level of disposable income to the point that it's not going to be that big of a deal for you. But I just have a problem. Like I can't do that in my
Yeah.
conscience. Like
Yeah.
I want people to get the best results that they possibly can, which means I will do everything that I know how to do in order to make sure that that happens. So yeah, sometimes we say no to people because they're just not in the right place for it. They're not mentally ready to kind of make it's a financial investment, but it's also an investment in, with you, like it's your time, it's your effort, it's the changing of things in your lifestyle. It matters and it's so worth it. Like it really is worth it.
Yeah, and just to reiterate that is like it's the same thing that I tell, my clients and my audience is if you are going to the doctor over and over and over looking for a new test, looking for what is wrong all the time without changing the things that you need to change at home, you're really band-aiding things and you're looking for that thing that is wrong versus I'm going to say it, taking accountability for what you need to be doing at home. Now, I'm being hard on you, but that's the truth. Like, the truth is, if you are constantly just looking for what is wrong on paper and in the doctor's office versus what you can do differently at home and what you need to do in order to better things, then that's a problem. So we have to start with ourselves. What do we need to do at home? Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be going and getting labs done. I think that that's very necessary, especially if you're having a lot of symptoms and things going on that are just unexplainable. I believe lab work is so incredibly important to get to answers. I really, really do. And I know you do too. Yeah.
Yes.
I want to talk about peptides because I got introduced. I've known about peptides for a while, but I knew about peptides in a different way than what I do now. And so you were actually the first person that I really started to learn more about BCP peptides specifically. But I want you to start talking and sharing with our listeners about peptides. What are they and why the heck are they so good?
Oh my gosh, I love peptides. I think they're like one of the coolest things we have access to in medicine right now, like kind of right up there with stem cells. And they actually have a nice marriage. Like we usually use peptides in our stem cell patients to achieve certain outcomes. So peptides is just kind of a broad category that talks about signaling molecules that are tiny sequences of amino acids. So common peptides that people usually know about is like insulin. Insulin's a peptide, and collagen. A lot of people put collagen powders into their shakes. That's a peptide. It's those three sequences of amino acids, and they can range. Like you mentioned, BPC 157. It's a sequence of 157 amino acids. Like that's what it is. But again, there's various ones across the board, and they can do various things. And your body makes most of these. That's how we know that they exist because they're already being generated by the body. And what happens with that is that you're going to eat protein. Your protein is made up of amino acids. They come into your body breaks them down. And then it says, hey, we have all these raw materials of amino acids. What job do we need to accomplish? And it'll pick out those, assemble them, and however they need to be assembled, and it'll carry out the process. So in a healthy non-diabetic person, you're going to eat the protein. Your body's going to say, hey, we need to make some insulin because maybe there's going to be some carbs coming in. Makes the insulin, you clear out the carbs nicely. You're in a healthy body. It's all good there. Now, what we can use in clinical practice, and gosh, I don't even know which ones you want to go to. You have ones that can help increase growth hormone levels, which are fantastic for anti-aging properties, because there are some people that will argue that aging is simply just a deficiency of growth hormone. That's a real thing. We have like the BPC that you talked about, which we like to refer to it as literally the healing peptide. It's got a lot of various properties, but it is still one of those things. And I should lead with this. Peptides are the cherry on top.
Yeah.
I often don't start with peptides for a lot of things because they're there to work in a system that already has a foundation. Just like like diabetes or like diabetic peptides, like technically a person who's diabetic and needs insulin wouldn't necessarily need insulin if they reverse the diabetes with diet and lifestyle, right? So peptides can be the cherry on top because BPC, for example, is really, really great for helping to heal up joint damage, specifically at the cartilage level, as well as gut dysfunction and like intestinal permeability and anything from like IBS to IBD, or even like hiatal hernias I've seen. It's, I've even seen things like ulcers get healed with BPC. Like, it's really, really cool what it can do. Even neuropathy, I should say that one too. Neuropathy, I've seen heal and recover from that. And what's cool about BPC is that not only can you get it kind of over the counter, you have to know good suppliers for sure. And we know good suppliers, which is great, but you can get it without a prescription and you can take it orally and it's effective. A lot of peptides have to be injected and are delivered via prescription. So it can be a little bit harder to get a lot of them, but this one works phenomenally well. And what's also really cool about it is that there is really no toxic dose. They've never been able to discover what a high upper limit is on that. So it's incredibly safe for pretty much anybody to take. Extraordinarily rare for anybody to have a poor reaction to it because, again, it's something that our body already naturally creates. If you don't know this, this is a fun fact. People argue that it was actually Pavlov that discovered it. Like Pavlov's dog's Pavlov guy. Like,
really?
Yes. Yep. And it's actually, it was discovered from gastric juice secretions. So when the dogs were salivating, like it's argued that he was the one who discovered it. So that's a pretty neat piece of history on that.
Oh my gosh. That is so fascinating. Wow. That's crazy. That's so awesome.
So we also have other peptides if you want to dive into some other cool ones. We even have topical ones that we can use. So there's one called the copper peptide. It's a GHKCU. And this one you can use topically to help with wrinkles and to even help with hair growth. So it can come as a topical foam for the scalp if you've started to experience hair loss, like even in Hashimoto's patients or low thyroid patients. Postpartum patients who started to go through that telogen effluvium process where your hair just falls out after 3 months after giving birth. Helps a lot with restoring hair from that. I was using it earlier and you can kind of see my little like baby hair starting to poke through.
Oh, wow.
I have an 8-month-old and I got this like little Cindy Lou.
Yep, I remember that time.
But it's effective, and like I said, for the wrinkles, it can be so good and it's so safe and people will call it like Botox in a bottle. You do have to use it, of course, consistently over time, but it really can work to kind of smooth things out.
This is a cream?
It is you can get it as a cream. Yeah. There's a company that I use and they actually have the GHKCU combined with 2 other peptides. One's called agirreline and the other one's called Lufazil. And it's this trio of these peptides and they all kind of have like that Botox-like effect where it really kind of smooths things, but you don't lose the movement. So like I would say my forehead's pretty smooth, but I still,
you got movement. Yeah.
I can move it. Right. But for the most part, it's relaxed. It's good. And it's these peptide creams, they work pretty darn well.
That's amazing. I was just thinking back to what you said about the overdosing part. I would be really curious to know, since there's nothing that shows that there's overdosing happening. My question would be, is the body just excreting it out? Are we just peeing it out like vitamin C when the body's like, oh, I got enough, like I don't need all of this. Does it just like pee it out? Like that would be my question. I'd be very curious about that.
From what I understand about like the pharmacodynamics of BPC specifically is that it's actually just rapidly used. It's got a relatively short half-life in that regard, and it's just taken up and used pretty quickly by the body, which is really cool because this is actually one of the peptides where people can see changes from it within days of starting it. I don't know if that was your experience, but I have tons of patients that have noticed the same thing. I mean, even personally, sometimes I just use it like as an acute thing. Like if I had a really tough workout or maybe like I encountered something I was eating that didn't quite agree with me, I'll pop a couple of them and I usually feel better.
Yeah, no, absolutely amazing. So we got to go to our next break here, but I will share my experience with the BPC 157 when we got back because I was absolutely shocked by it. So I'll share that when I get back. We'll be right back after the break, you guys.
Hey there, Renegades. Are you tired of just going through the motions? Ready to break free and design the life you've always craved? Then you're in luck, because right here, right now, you're in the heart of it all. Every single week on the Lizzie Ens Show, we release a new episode where we dive deep into the hottest topics out there, from health and fitness to mindset, business, and personal growth. But here's the kicker. We're not just here to talk. We're here to make it happen. Join us weekly for discussions that are uplifting, powerful, fun, and relatable. We're all about embracing the incredible potential of our minds and bodies and learning to move with them to reclaim our vitality in every aspect of our lives. So if you're ready to join the revolution and unlock your true potential, tune in every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Mountain, 12 p.m. Pacific Time. Because right here, right now, you're in the perfect place to make it all happen.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
You're now listening to the world-renowned and internationally recognized Amish Renegade on the Lizzie Ens Show.
All right, you guys. So we're talking about peptides right now, and I'm so glad that you shared what you have shared about them, and we're going to dive into them just a little bit more. You can share whatever you want about peptides, because I'm curious about some of the current research and breakthroughs and things that are coming from it as well. But what I do want to share is I had a really, really cool experience with BPC 157, and I did the rapid release one for myself because I was like, I need like quick. So I had been, since my son was born, he was a really heavy baby and I carried him a lot. I breastfed for 2.5 years, and my right shoulder was like trashed. Like it would get better, then it would get worse. And it got so bad that I would wake up at night and I couldn't move my arm myself. I could feel it just kind of like sitting there, and I needed to move my arm, and I would have to use my other hand to lift up my arm, my entire arm, and move it over because it was so painful and I didn't have the mobility and strength to actually do it. And then I also for a long time, I wasn't able to really do any chest work at the gym, and overhead presses, like shoulder presses and stuff, were really, really difficult. And it was just this constant like back and forth. And so I started to learn about BPC 157. And a friend of mine told me that she took the shot a few years ago because she had this back injury and it wasn't getting better. And she took the shot, and she's like, I took one shot and I haven't taken one since. She's like, took my back pain away, and she never had it after that. So by the time I found out about it, the shots were banned by the FDA, I believe, and you can't really get them. So then you were like, well, this one's just as effective. This is a capsule form. And you actually had a post out about it. And I was like, oh my God, she's like an angel right now. Like, I need this stuff. So I got some and I started using it. And literally, I'm not kidding, the same day I went to the gym and I was like, what is happening? Like, I was able to do a push-up with no pain, and I started doing shoulder work, and I was like, wow, I can actually really start working my shoulders again. And I've been taking it ever since. I take it either once or twice a day, however I'm feeling. Sometimes I get a little flare up and that'll take a little extra. It just really depends, because if again, like if you have other inflammatory issues and stuff going on in your life, if I carry a lot of my stress on my right side, or if I did something, like I might get a little flare up, so I dose it a little higher. But that was my experience. And I've had clients of mine that have used it as well and seen great results with it too. So I'm sure you have like more stories like that too. But that blew my mind.
It's so funny because yes, like what you experienced is 100% the norm. And I feel like people are probably like, how is that even possible? Like, what's happening? Because most of the time what people are used to, they're used to medications. They're used to taking like the Advil or the Tylenol, and yeah, the pain will go away for a little bit, but then it comes back, and it sometimes comes back worse because, they start to feel better, and then maybe they'll go and they'll do the thing that hurts their low back. And meanwhile, now they're re-injuring the area. The BPC is a little bit different in the sense that it actually goes in and starts a repair process. The
Yeah.
BPC in BPC 157 stands for body protection compound. And just as the name suggests, like, it's there to help protect the body, help heal the body. People refer to it as like the Wolverine peptide because of how much it like really just helps the body heal and regenerate. Like, obviously you're not going to start growing claws, and it's not going to like really like reverse
Turn you into
from
Wolverine.
right. Like everything else, that there are limitations, and it still is dependent somewhat on the health of the host, right?
Mhm.
Like it's not going to mop up 50 years of bad habits and no exercise and, poor eating thing, eat a lot of sugar, seed oils, all that stuff in a couple days. You're probably going to have to be in it for the long run and still doing all the other things. But a testament to the things that you practice and you preach, right? You have built the foundation. You've got everything else dialed in. So when you were to add something like this, my gosh, it's working in the best environment, and it has all of the available raw materials because your diet's so good and you're keeping your inflammation low. And it was really able to focus on the thing that was screaming loudest in your body and help that shoulder actually heal. It's
Yeah.
super cool.
Oh no, it was like a miracle. I was mind blown because I was like, this is absolutely phenomenal. But you're absolutely right. Like, I wouldn't start working with someone and the first thing I do is say, hey, you need to get on BPC. Like, I just wouldn't, because we all know like you can reduce your inflammation and do a lot of good things by changing what you're putting into your body and carrying it for it. And that way, getting your sleep and your water and all of that. My next question would be is the research. Like, is there any new research and like breakthroughs in stem cell or peptides that have come out recently?
So stem cell, yes, there's clinical trials happening all the time in the stem cell world. Like if you just go to like clinicaltrials.gov, you can actually look up, hey, this what's happening, and search stem cells, search like exosomes, extracellular vesicles, Wharton's jelly, cord blood, like any of these really keywords, and you can see like, hey, they're really trying this stuff. Where we're kind of running into, I would say, like hiccups in the industry is surrounding certain levels of legality and what we're able to do. So, for example, in the birth tissue world, we can take this fresh tissue, but there's a limitation on what a lab or a company is able to do to process it. So we can't like culture and expand it, which means we would be making more stem cells and you would be growing them and you'd be getting many more millions into the billions, right? We're kind of just, hey, whatever comes out in that cord or in that thing, that's what we get. Whatever growth factors are there, or the growth factors that are there, and that's it. So I would love to see a change in that and the legalities surrounding that, to just allow companies to make better quality products and more of a standardization kind of across the board, so that we know that people are getting these really consistent treatments, right? And then the other aspect too is there was some controversy years ago in regards to taking stem cells from a patient's own body, specifically surrounding adipose tissue. What the FDA and those people were trying to say is that once I've taken out, say you come to my office, we take out your fat and I extract the stem cells. What they're trying to say is that I now manufactured a drug, and that we should be selling that drug back to you through the pharmaceutical industry for about $500,000. Now, there was a company that fought them originally years back and lost, but then there was another organization out of California that fought them just a couple years ago and won. So now the precedent really has been set that, of course, your cells are not a drug, right? There's no way, because based on what we classify as a drug, it has to be reproducible. It has to be exactly across the board. It has to like meet so many certain criteria that it's simply absurd that they would try to even make that claim that I'm drug manufacturing without a license. So now that that's kind of been put by the wayside, I really do hope that we'll be able to start seeing more advances in using the stem cells from a patient's own body, simply because they are just super safe. You don't run the risk of anything possibly transferring. You don't run the risk of anything possibly rejecting. Because even though some of the birth tissue products they really do have stringent standards. Years ago, there was a company that actually ended up with an E. coli contamination of their product. They ended up with patients who did develop graft versus host disease. So there's still some things that the industry, we're trying to figure out as a whole. And I would just love for the providers to simply have more freedom to do what we think we need to do in the office and do what's best for our patient, and then be able to really share that work and share those outcomes so that doctors all over can really start utilizing this as a tool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because and truthfully too is it's not that available, all over. And like you said before, it's also an expense, right? So like not everybody's able to do that financially. And then I was thinking about what you said about selling it back. Aren't you using the same person's like fat cells and pulling the peptides from that person? And so what they were saying is you need to sell it back to the person, but it was
Because
theirs,
I've made a drug, and
but
that
it
now I'm
was theirs
selling
to
them a drug.
begin with.
Exactly why it's so insane.
That's correct. But my question is, did they want a portion of it?
Yes.
That's the trick, is they saw an opportunity that said, hey, they're doing this and the same person is getting the product, but they want a portion of it. It's the same thing as what they did when they made, THC legal in many states. Like they want a portion of it. It's wasn't it a few years ago that they wanted to make it so like you have to get a prescription just for like a multivitamin, like vitamins. Yeah,
They were
that was
trying
in
to
the works as
pull.
well.
It's really crazy when you start just like following the money in regards to like the FDA, the pharmaceutical companies. I know I don't need to preach this to you or your audience,
No, but
but
other people need to hear it.
it's, the things that they say are true. Like there really is this group that really tries to squash natural medicine, natural remedies, natural therapies, and to, like what you were saying, to make a multivitamin have to be a prescription only. I mean, my gosh, I have never met like a regular old prescribing doctor who would even know how to analyze whether a multivitamin was going to be effective for a patient or not. Like they would probably not even know the difference between the active form of B12 versus the inactive form of
Yeah,
B12.
exactly.
Right. So how are they even going to effectively prescribe if this was even put in there? They get no education in this stuff whatsoever.
Mm-mm. Yeah, between you and I, like I'm actually not a huge fan of multivitamins. I feel like they're a huge waste of money for a lot of people, and a lot of times you're underdosing in something and overdosing in another thing, and I'm like, nah, we're not even pinpointing what you actually need just by dumping a whole bunch of vitamins in at one time. And most of the time they're full of synthetic stuff that I'm like, I want nothing to do with. So give me some good beef liver capsules for my B vitamins and, and fat soluble vitamins. There's actually this morning a friend of mine sent this to me where they Fox News put an article out about the potential risks of taking fish oil long term, and how if you're a healthy person and you take fish oil every day, it could cause heart disease. And I'm like, this is obscene. Like, this is absolutely crazy. But what was crazy is I read the whole article and I was like, you guys aren't even making any sense, because there was so much to read in between the lines that I was like, it could do this, but like, there's not actual evidence of it happening. So I don't know who's coming after the fish oil, but somebody's coming after the fish oil, because when it makes it on a major network, somebody's behind it trying to come after fish oil, and somebody wants to go after the fish oil market. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. And to that point, I will say fish oil is one of those products that it is so dependent on the manufacturing, because there are 100% products out there, and I would say the grand majority of them, that are rancid by the time they reach the consumer, meaning you are now consuming oxidized PUFAs.
Yep.
That will 100% lead to
Yes.
cardiovascular disease. So I don't know if it's so much like the fish oil or the super oxidized rancid PUFAs that they are trying to pass off as a fish oil supplement. So there's always, I think, a little bit of truth in it, and it's a testament to the fact too, that you can't just blindly trust what the media is saying. I mean, I think the media just had like a blitz with one of those peptides that I've used in patients. And I don't know if you want to go into this discussion, but things like the semaglutide and the Ozempic and stuff. I don't know where your opinion falls on those, but I think that the media did a disservice in a lot of ways, because those peptides have been super helpful for a lot of patients. And again, the patients who are doing all the work
Yeah.
first, not
Yeah.
just they have to be doing all the work first.
Yeah.
And we've seen some really cool stuff because they have actually been shown in studies to actually regrow neurons in the brain to help with arthritic joints, to actually like stop addiction in its tracks from anything from like alcohol to cheese, like really
Yeah.
cool stuff.
No, so where I'm at with that is I think it's right for the right person. I think it's wrong for many people because it's become so bioavailable that it's dangerous. That's
Yes.
where the problem lies. And I think that if you are someone that is pre-diabetic or diabetic and your numbers are like where they shouldn't be and it's dangerous, and you do things smart and it's done in a way with an expert behind it and the things that you just mentioned, no, I totally don't think that there's anything wrong with it. But again, it's the bioavailability that is happening to the mass public. I found out that Weight Watch companies like Weight Watchers are now able to provide Ozempic with their plans.
Oh no. That's like a
That's where
recipe for
that, yeah.
disaster.
That's really, really bad. I'm like, there was two. There was Weight Watchers and one other one. And so what it is these companies find out, oh, this is something that people will buy into because it's a quick thing. And so this allows them to bring in more customers because now they have this add-on. The other thing that I don't know, this is just me observing, but there's a gal that I know. She was documenting her Ozempic journey on TikTok, and about 6 months into her Ozempic journey, she got breast cancer. And I was like,
No.
what is the connection here? Like either and she lost a good amount of weight. And I was like, okay, there's two things that could have happened here. Is there a connection with the Ozempic and something came up? I don't know. Or did this allow her to actually, because she lost the weight and she felt the lump herself, did this then allow her to find that? There's two ways that it could.
Third option. I actually have a third option. What a lot of people don't know is, and you know this because of your company, Miss Commando, but there are so many toxins in beauty products.
Yep.
And females who have used these products, sometimes many hundreds of these chemicals every single morning, they're going to store in your tissue and they're going to store in fat. When you
Yep.
start rapidly losing fat and those toxins flood into your system, they can absolutely wreak havoc. So a development is something like a breast cancer, which can be strongly linked to these environmental toxins that are in these beauty products. Just this giant dump in the system from those fat cells opening wide, like really wide, and maybe she's not doing the best on the detox stuff with it. That would be my guess.
Wow, I did not know that. That was such an amazing add-on to that. We got to go to our last break here, and then we have a few minutes left at the end. I want you to just think about 2 to 3 things that you want to share with the listeners, and also where people can find you. So we'll be right back, guys.
Hey there, renegades! Are you tired of just going through the motions? Ready to break free and design the life you've always craved? Then you're in luck, because right here, right now, you're in the heart of it all. Every single week on the Lizzie Ens Show, we release a new episode where we dive deep into the hottest topics out there, from health and fitness to mindset, business, and personal growth. But here's the kicker. We're not just here to talk. We're here to make it happen. Join us weekly for discussions that are uplifting, powerful, fun, and relatable. We're all about embracing the incredible potential of our minds and bodies and learning to move with them to reclaim our vitality in every aspect of our lives. So if you're ready to join the revolution and unlock your true potential, tune in every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Mountain, 12 p.m. Pacific Time. Because right here, right now, you're in the perfect place to make it all happen. You're now listening to the world-renowned and internationally recognized Amish Renegade on the Lizzie Ens Show.
All right, welcome back, you guys. We just have a few minutes left here. And again, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart to come in here and just brain dump all the information that you have. You're such a wealth of knowledge, and I appreciate you. And I love that we get to see each other once a month. I missed the last month meeting, but and summer's coming. It sounds like everybody's busy. But what are like for now, if someone's interested in either stem cell or peptides, where do they start?
Honestly, like we were talking about, I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to dial in your foundation. Like at the very bare minimum, you got to be eating adequate protein. You got to be doing some sort of movement at least a couple times a week that's supporting your body. You got to be sleeping. You got to have kind of like stress managed. We won't say no stress, but like
Yes.
if you don't have
Management.
stress, you're dead. Like that's just
Yep,
simply it. Like
exactly.
you're never going to not
Yep.
be stressed, but handle it.
Yep.
Dial those in before you really start trying to play with these fancier things, because they're going to be great cherries on top and they're going to 100% amplify your results like you've not experienced with other things, but you have to come into it with the strong baseline for sure. And, there are a lot of people that do this type of medicine. You just really have to seek them out. Like, I'm not going to, I can't be everybody's doctor. Like there just literally isn't enough time in my schedule in the world to be able to do that. So I actually try to put a ton of free information on my Instagram page, and I talk about peptides and how to use them and how you can get them. But yeah, search in your area for like functional doctors and really make sure that you are interviewing in a way that allows you to find out if they're going to be able to support your goals, which brings me to my other suggestion, which is think about what you want to achieve. Like people will be like, oh, I want to feel better. Well, what does that mean to you? Does that mean that you can, do certain activities with your kids? Does that mean that you're going to fit in a certain dress size or pant size? Like have actual tangible goals, because when you can actually see it spelled out, your subconscious mind will work to actually move you in that direction a lot better, and it will figure it out for you, so to speak. So it really does work.
Yep, absolutely. And what is your Instagram handle? Where can people reach you?
Yeah, I'm most active on Instagram as far as social media goes. I'm just at Dr. Solt on there. So DrSolt. My clinic website is stemcelltherapypro.com. And that's where you can submit any inquiries as far as potential to become a patient. We do offer discovery calls. So if you need to get on with somebody to go over everything, you can book one of those on there for free. And then, yeah, there's a ton of information on there too about just how we work and what we offer.
Yeah, awesome. And the other thing too is if anybody here, just remember, she also sees patients from other states, other countries. By the way, I did not know you were originally from Canada. That's awesome. I actually have friends in Canada. Where in Canada were you?
Ontario, kind of right above Michigan.
Oh, yeah. My grandparents live in Michigan. Well, my grandpa's not alive anymore, but yeah, my grandparents and a lot of my aunts and uncles live in Michigan. But side note, yes, you can go to her website, and what I would do is if you are interested in learning about stem cell or peptides, do your due diligence and do some homework. We talked a lot about these things here, but it is still your job to educate. And it's the same thing that I tell anybody that I work with. It's my job to educate you and teach you what you need to be doing, not just tell you what you need to be doing. There's a difference. There's a difference between telling someone what to do and teaching someone why we are doing what we're doing. And so go to her website, go to her Instagram, and do a bunch of research on, because I know you have a lot of information out there. And then if you want to have a consultation with her, book that consultation and just see. But also, if you want to see someone that is within your state, do your due diligence and research them. And my advice is always, unless it's someone that was referred. So I'm a huge person that I love referrals. Like when someone that I trust refers me to someone, I'm like, that puts like a number 10 on referral, typically, like how much I will trust that person. But again, sometimes it's right for them and it's not right for you. So you still have to interview that person and find out whether or not that's the right step for you to take. It's like I tell my clients when I'm doing consultations with people, I say, listen, not everybody's for me and I'm not for everybody. So you get to decide whether or not you want to work with me. And you're the same way. You don't take everybody. And the reason for that is because we value what we're bringing to the table and we want you to be the most successful. And the first step is for you to have the power to make that decision on your own. So guys, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to leave a review wherever you're listening. Share it with your friends. I'll be back next week. Dr. Sabrina, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Lizzie.
This show is made possible with your support. Tune in to the Lizzie Ens Show every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Mountain, 12 p.m. Pacific Time, and around the world at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. And don't forget to subscribe and share it with your friends.